Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and thank you for listening to Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. I want to thank you for listening this evening. We've got a lot of topics to talk about this evening, and we're going to get into that very shortly. I want to tell everybody I appreciate you for checking in on the show this evening, and I appreciate all the support you've been giving through Twitter and also through all the different views on the website. So I want to thank you and say God bless you for that. The first issue that we're going to talk about this evening was that they did pass the deal today to the deal with the GOP senator ends the one-man blockade. Senator Bunning out of Kentucky, he agreed to allow the passage of the budget stopgap, and he had blocked this new deal is going to allow a 30-day package of benefits to pass. I was really kind of frustrated with the idea. Again, more politicians playing with people's lives on this one, but I think he was, I guess, erring on the side of caution and wanting to be responsible, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that rely on these unemployment benefits, and I think that it was the right thing to do to get that bill passed. So that was the first issue of the day. For a while there, it looked like he was going to really block that from getting through. And again, I think that's the kind of thing right there where people are frustrated with the politicians in general playing games with people's lives here. So I'm glad we got that. Glad that he didn't interfere anymore on that bill, I guess, in getting that passed. Some conservatives might disagree with that, but no one stood with Senator Bunning on this one. So he was truly out there on his own because a lot of people need these benefits, whether you're Republican or Democrat. You probably have family members or someone that's lost a job, and you just know that right now is not the time to play the game of politics when you're dealing with people's lives and dealing with their income. So it was good that bill got passed today. It appears now, at the last minute, that President Obama is actually going to take some GOP ideas on this health care bill. So I don't know how much of that is just for posturing to say that we did consider the bills, because it's a 2,700-page bill. It's been pretty much the same bad bill that they've been working on for the last 6 months, and over the last year. The GOP is what their angle is to get them to tear up this bill and start from scratch, and the Democrats want to push through and get this bill passed before they lose any more support, or quite frankly lose all their power in 2010, because a lot of those guys will not be back. And I think that it was quite amazing to hear Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi tell fellow congressmen and their Democratic partners there not to worry about the election in 2010, to act with conviction, as if to say, so what, that you won't be reelected, just get this bill done. And I think that's interesting, considering his job is safe, at least for the next 4 years, or until 2012, and Nancy Pelosi is probably a very large favorite in her area to win again. Again, she's been there for over 20 years. Hope that as fellow patriots, we can put together an effort for people like John Dennis who are running against her out there in California, because she takes her position for granted, and she doesn't feel like she has to answer to all the American people. And maybe in San Francisco, those politics of big government play over well, but the rest of the country does not seem to agree with that. But again, they've had their ears turned on that, so it appears now that they're willing to again listen to some GOP ideas. The ideas in particular that they have, that they're going to listen to, have a lot to do with the malpractice suits, reducing waste and abuse in the healthcare system, increase Medicaid reimbursements to doctors, and expands health savings accounts. Health savings accounts, to me, seem like one of the best ways to go about tackling these healthcare ideas. For the person that can't afford insurance at all, obviously we have to make options available for them, but health savings account seems to be a good way for self-employed people or people with private insurance to prepare for that would be with a health savings account. So those are some of the things that Obama's willing to consider, and that at this point, I guess the Republicans is going to be interesting to see how they react to that because I don't see them at the last minute buying into this when they knew that he wasn't listening, wasn't willing to do open forums, and everything's been kind of for show. So people, all my patriots listening tonight, get very familiar with the words reconciliation. I suspect that we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming weeks. The idea is that they're gonna, if this does not pass with a majority vote, they'll go into reconciliation to get that vote, and that way they don't need typical majority of the votes, and they're gonna, like I said, ram this through. And it really, again, kind of speaks to the whole level of the arrogance of the administration when they're not listening to people, and it's starting to sound like that Obama's not even listening to his own chief of staff. There have been reports also that Rahm Emanuel, and Obama are not on the same page. Um, Obama had some very big dreams and big ambitions early on, and I think he's now being met with the reality that all those things aren't going to be as easy as he wanted to get accomplished in the first place. And he's meeting a lot of opposition from people on his own side. And people forget that they've had the majority in the Senate and in the House, and they can't get these bills passed because a lot of the Democrats still want to keep their jobs. Unfortunately, they're not thinking in terms of what's best for people anyway. They never do. They're thinking in terms of what they can do to keep their jobs. So this health care bill is not all that popular, and I suspect in a lot of states these Democrats know that, and that's why it's taking so long to get this bill passed. But again, Obama's message to them was to get the bill passed. He didn't really care if they were get reelected or not. And again, that kind of thinking is interesting for someone who's not going to be up for reelection or doesn't have these issues. Also, I think it was very interesting that the tax for what they call Cadillac plans, anybody with a job, and you have health care benefits, that those actual taxes don't kick in into 2018, meaning that when those taxes come in, those bills are raised, he will not be president anymore. And he'll long since been president at that point. So I think that, again, he's taking different parts of this bill, and they're going to leave the rest of the mess and to the next person that's president. And he probably figures it'll be a Republican because of the way he's doing. There's probably no way that a Democrat will get elected at that point, whether it be in 2012 or 2016. So I want to hear what you have to say about that, callers out there. The call-in number is 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you out there. I'm going to go check in on the chat boards also. I'm live on the chat board. I'm also live on the radio, 347-996-3175. I want to hear what you had to say. A few months ago, Obama gave himself a grade of I think it was a B plus. What would you grade him at this point? And I want to hear what you have to say. If you're a conservative, how do you feel about the fact that that he's actually now including some of the key issues that the GOP wanted covered in the bill? And do you think that that's good for the country? I want to hear what you have to think. What do you have to say about this health care plan? There's no question that we need to do some things to fix the system. We have the best system in the world as far as healthcare goes. There's no question about it. We have the best healthcare system, but things still need to be fixed. So it'll be interesting seeing how the GOP votes on this because again, this will be up for vote. This healthcare debate very soon, and again, incorporating GOP ideas might have been at the last second. It might have been being thrown a bone, but nonetheless. It was thrown, so it'll be very interesting to see. I noticed that Mitch McConnell said he hasn't seen the letter, but from what I understand, there's a certain lack of symmetry there, In other words, a suggestion that we might have a few items inadequately addressed in this 2,700-page bill. And that's pretty much, sprinkling a little something in on a 2,700-page bill that's full of bad ideas and bad spending is probably the way the GOP is looking at it. So, again, I don't suspect that it's going to change much, but what do you think about it, America? Give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. Call-in number, 347-996-3175. Don't leave me lonely out here tonight. Give me a call. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you feel about all these different opinions here. And I thank Key Rooster if you listen out there on Twitter land. Well, thanks a lot for the comments. First time listening to the show. I'm welcoming you. I'm glad you're listening in. Again, we talk about all kinds of issues. I welcome people that don't necessarily agree with me to also come on the show because again, it's not this is for the American. This is for the people. It's not just about. I don't make any bones about where I stand. It's a conservative, but I'm open to listening to others' ideas, and I think that's the kind of thing that our leaders need to get an idea of is that it's okay to have different opinions, but we do need to work together to get this country rolling in the right direction. All the politicians kind of just stalling and not doing anything. The only people that really hurts is the American people. So we have nothing to gain by everyone stalling and getting nothing done. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear your opinions on any suggestions and ideas on what do you think we could be done differently as far as how this health care bill is being approached. Do you think that we need to just rip up the whole thing and start from scratch again? That seems to be the overwhelming ideas that the GOP has. What do you think? I want to hear from you. 347-996-3175. Thanks, Lexi, for giving me a shout out. Let them know. Give me a call. I'm waiting to hear from them. 347-996-3175. All right. And again, we're going to talk about some other issues. Again, I want to hear what everyone else has to say about the health care bill because, again, this has been months. I remember last July when everybody was getting all riled up with the Tea Parties and we were, the idea was this bill was going to be passed in August or September. Hasn't happened. It was going to get passed. A lot of these promises that were made at that time were not being made. So I'm going to take my first caller. I see we got a caller, and I appreciate you for calling in. So I'm going to take the first call. Caller, you're on the air.
Who, me?
Yes, you. How are you doing? Can you hear me? Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, hi. How are you, Mr. Lane? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too. Who am I speaking with, and where are you calling from?
This is Ike Rooster, Tim on Twitter. Let's see, Gaithersburg, Maryland.
All right. I had a couple people calling me out of Maryland. All the people are in tune out there, really trying to be more politically inclined, I guess, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
so
people
what do you think about this health care bill?
Well, I think we ought to start over and go step by step with each individual thing that's screwed up about the health care.
Okay. What do you think about the president actually being willing to incorporate some of the GOP ideas into his health care plan at this point?
Well, I think it's a bunch of crap, just something so that he could say after it fails a year or so down the road and we're broke and even in worse shape than we are now, that he could blame Republicans a little bit so that it's not just the Democrats that are getting all the blame.
Right. I think most of the Republicans kind of see right through that, too, and that's probably why they're not going to sign off on it or engage too much in that. But it's unfortunate that because of the political climate the way it is, these guys don't trust each other enough to work together and get this stuff done.
Well, Obama hasn't made it very easy for anyone to trust him. I mean, look at his connections before he won his election.
Right.
The type of shady characters he has at the White House. The lying left and right. Very little from this guy looks or appears presidential at all.
Right. Well, what would you give him as a grade? You know, he gave himself a B plus. What would you give him?
I'd give him a Z, but since we're on a grading scale, I think it would be a F.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, technically he should be like the last letter in the alphabet. I mean, the guy's lousy. I didn't think in the rest of my lifetime I'd ever see a Jimmy Carter type president, but I think this guy got Jimmy Carter beat, or he's the chocolate version.
Yeah, he's getting very close to that. Like I said, I was just kind of going on about how he's not even listening to his chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel's kind of tried to guide him past that. He kind of gave him the idea that you need to focus more on job creation, which I don't think which I don't understand why he hasn't done. But he's been very headstrong about getting this health care bill done one way or the other. And like I said, even going as far as to tell other members of Congress, you know, if you lose your job for it, so be it. While he's got another term to go, and he's, you know, like I said, he's kind of really only thinking about the goals that he's set forth.
And it seems a lot like, for whatever reason, it appears like their mission, their goal, their focus is to do whatever they can to try to legally destroy America.
Yeah, and that's where I guess the questioning is, because it's the whole way America works. They're kind of like trying to turn around to make them to, you know, pretty much how Europe's civilization runs, and I think that's where you get a lot of people calling them socialists and you know, those sort of things. And so I don't, again, with all the apologizing, and I don't know where he stands on a lot of stuff as far as America goes. And changing the way our systems are, you know, being run. Again, he's been very ambitious with his health care bill, to be willing to tell the Congress, hey, fall on your sword, let's get this done. I think it's pretty amazing, and shows the kind of he's not backing down from this at all.
And you know what's the scary part is that there's not a whole lot of ways that we can stop it legally.
No, I mean, he is the president, and he has a majority with the, you know, in Senate and the House, and like I said, we'll find out more about. We'll be hearing a lot more about will be reconciliation, because if they don't get if they don't pass this bill tomorrow or in the next few days with the majority, that's what they're going to do. They'll just go pretty much ram it down at that point if that's what they've got to do.
My understanding is that in order for us to get this to the Supreme Court, somebody's going to have some type of issue with it, which won't be for, I assume, 3 or 4 years, since the benefits aren't supposed to kick in until then. But someone's going to actually have to have an issue in order to throw a case in front of the Supreme Court. They can't just pass the bill and then somebody say, oh, I don't like this, and then toss the case.
I'm sure, and it's going to probably be a few different kind of lawsuits, because you'll have young people that'll challenge the rule by not getting insurance, possibly being sent to jail. I suspect that you'll have all kind of people challenging this system once it's put in place. And again, it doesn't start off for another few years, which makes you wonder how important is this if it's not going to start for another few years. And again, interestingly, the Cadillac tax doesn't even kick in until after he's long gone as president, even if he somehow got elected to 2 terms. That doesn't kick in 2018. So, again,
right, and the only way that
mess on somebody else's hands.
And the only way that you could get any case in front of the Supreme Court up until the benefits kick in is if it's something to do with them ripping us off in the taxes that they're going to be stealing from us.
And that will be hard to prove, considering all the government waste that they already do. I mean, if that's the case, we should have been and took them to court. So you will have that will be a hard one to prove, considering that the health care plan will not be active until 2000, I believe it's 2012 or something like that. So Yeah, you'll probably have a lot of cases after, like you say, after it kicks in. But even at that point, it's going to have to be worked up into the Supreme Court. It won't immediately go to the Supreme Court. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. All right, Mr. Wayne, thanks for taking my call. I'll call you back when I got something else to bellyache about to let some more callers get a chance to talk to you.
Oh, no problem. See, I told you I'd be nice to you. You know, I appreciate you for giving me a call, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. If you get a chance, listen to some of the other shows we've done. Like I said, the next couple of weeks we'll be having some surprise guests. So thank you again for listening to the show, and I hope you enjoy it. God bless.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So again, I think it's very interesting that right now our government is not listening to the people on this one, and they're really not listening to even, like I said, it appears right now that even the president is not listening to his own chief of staff. That would be my suggestion. If the president is listening, or if any of his people are listening, why don't you help us create jobs in a scenario, or at least regulate in a way that makes creating jobs better. The government will not create the jobs, but they can create an environment that's more advantageous for businesses to want to create jobs and to promote growth. So that would be the thing I guess I would like to see the president. And being in the area I'm in Michigan, there's nothing we need more right now than jobs. Healthcare obviously is an issue with a lot of people, but the jobs issue is first and foremost. Like I said, I'd like to see him put more emphasis on that, and like I said, focus on that. Get tougher on our defense. I'm going to moving on. I'm going to move on to the next subject about that, tougher on defense and also being a stronger leader of our country. From that standpoint, I want to talk about Mitt Romney and his book that he's just released. I think that in 2000. Oh, wait a minute here. Before we do that, I think I'm going to go ahead and take this next caller here. So I'm going to take this call. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you tonight?
How are you doing this evening?
Okay.
Who am I speaking with?
This is Victoria. I figured you'd recognize the southern accent.
Yes, I was about to ask who am I speaking with. How are you doing this evening?
Fine, how are you?
Great.
I just been listening in to you talk on the health care bill.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found really interesting the other day, I suffered through all 7.5 hours of it.
You watched that whole summit, huh?
Oh, yeah. Is, forgetting the discrepancy in the time allowed to talk.
Right.
I noticed that several times, and this really makes me question the willingness of bipartisanship, if you will.
Right.
Every time any of the conservatives started making good points, like Paul Ryan, Marsha Blackburn,
mm-hmm.
Obama cut him off. I mean, he was so rude and disrespectful.
And I was very surprised. I heard him talking to John McCain that way. He said, "Hey, John, we're not in competition anymore with each other." And he had a little arrogance, at that summit. I agree.
But it seemed like every time somebody started making a point, and really pointing out a truth to the so-called bill,
right,
that, he tried to shut them down. Well, to me, that doesn't exactly say you're trying to work with, the other party.
I think that's why a lot of them didn't want to be involved in that.
And then today, I don't know if you heard the Mint statement that he issued supporting Bunning, but he brought it back to the health care. It was a pretty interesting statement. And DeMint brought it back to the health care that nobody's wanting to vote against unemployment. The problem is where they want to get the money from.
Exactly.
And, the reckless spending's got to stop. We've got to elect people, that aren't going to spend.
That's going to be that's the challenge right now. I think that's why we're looking for, you're finding a lot more candidates that aren't career politicians right now that are joining, getting involved in the election process, because it's just too many people are coming to D.C. and then they just they spend. They don't want to look out for the people that actually put them there in the first place, and it's very unfortunate.
Well, and that's true, but, oh God, I just noticed a comment made in your room. If anybody, the statement is, to me, they must have not listened to the health care debate. Paul Ron brought up very good points. Eric Cantor brought up very good points. Dr. Coburn brought up very valid points. And I did find it kind of interesting that the only two doctors that were there were GOP.
Right.
But they brought up interesting points, but every one of them was discounted. And I'm kind of curious, do you think this bill that's coming out tomorrow is actually going to really address tort reform and selling insurance across state lines?
I think it will address tort reform to an extent. I don't know to how far, obviously, because I haven't seen it and haven't heard as much about it yet. But I mean, if they were going to throw Republicans a bone, those would be in the areas they can do it. But it's in a way, again, where because it's so 2,700 pages, they can sprinkle that in there in ways where it might not even be an issue, or it might not be touched upon for years to come. I think that tort reform, and again, kind of letting all these insurance companies compete across state lines would be, a great two great steps in improving that bill. But with 2,700 pages, their concern is that a lot of stuff is just getting tucked away in there, and we're going to have more surprises and just an overall bad bill. Those issues that they're addressing are issues that should have been addressed in the very beginning, and not kind of like thrown to the GOP as a bone at the very end. You know what I mean?
Well, and I agree with that. And the other thing I don't really understand, and maybe it's because I am a conservative, and, if I go in a store and I pay for something, I want my item right then.
Exactly.
I'm not going to pay for something for 2 or 3 years and then get my product.
Right.
That's an awful long way away.
It raises the whole issue of how pertinent it is to get this done right now, because if it's not going to kick in for another 2 years, it would seem to me that we would have another 2 to 3 years to put together a good bill.
Right, one that's, addresses everybody's concern.
Right. There's no question to me that there needs to be some things done to fix healthcare, because the insurance companies right now, they're taking advantage of a system where there are no checks and balances. Everyone, it needs to be something done, but you just can't take a sledgehammer and just not destroy everything and start all over again from that standpoint, because, again, we do have the best healthcare system in the world. We just need, like I said, everything needs to be fine-tuned, and I think that's what we're looking for here, and not just the overhaul that Obama wants to do.
And I really agree with you. And, I find it kind of funny that Obama wants this drastic, because if you remember right during the campaign, and I don't even remember what the subject was, but he made fun of John McCain and said, you've got to use a scalpel, not a sledgehammer type rhetoric.
I remember that, and that's exactly like what he's trying to do right now is, take a sledgehammer. You don't, to change the kitchen sink, you don't have to rip out the whole counter. You don't have to rip out everything to do it. I guess that's the way to look at it. He's doing a lot right now just to improve it a little bit. You could do some of the things, and he said that he didn't want to move slow on this, but again, it doesn't kick in for another 2 years. And then the Cadillac plan tax, that doesn't kick in until after he's out as president. So, again, he'll leave that mess to the next person to clean up, which, considering the way he blames a lot of stuff on Bush, I don't see how he could consciously do that. But, again, it's okay. He gets away with that, I guess.
Well, and like I said, I keep on all the liberal things. I accidentally stumbled into a DN the other day during the healthcare discussion, actually, during the conference or summit or whatever you want to call it. I call it the fiasco, the Democratic fiasco. But during that, and all of them were acting like this healthcare bill was going into effect tomorrow. That, oh, my wife's got to have insurance. Without this, she's going to be, uninsured and we're broke and blah, blah, blah.
Those people are going to be left in the cold anyway for another 2 years,
Yeah. It's like they're not grasping that they want us to pay for this for 2 years before it takes effect. That they're not getting that part of it.
And again, that's how he's able to say that that this health care bill will be budget neutral by the fact that and it's all, it's all accounting tricks. He's going to take 2 years to prepay for it, give it a 2-year head start as far as saving up the money, but then only using the budget numbers for 10 years. Meaning he's only including those, 8 years in that plan. So I mean, it's all a work with numbers and accounting tricks to even to attempt to act like this is going to be something that's budget neutral or something that's going to save us money over some sort of term. So. Again, I just hope all of our leaders and politicians are really paying attention to those numbers and accountable for that.
I don't know if you saw this part, if you didn't listen to the whole thing. Obama himself nearly called us stupid, the American people as a whole. He stopped himself in the nick of time.
I don't doubt it.
No, he really did. He was explaining to someone that the American people really don't understand how this works about reconciliation and all that, and that we really don't care how stuff gets done as long as it gets done, because we're basically, and like I said, he caught himself right before he said stupid, and he changed it. But he did start, and I believe he really believes that we don't care, which is wrong, of course, because people do care, especially about, in a way, I wish they would just do reconciliation. Forget it. I'm tired of hearing about it. We'll vote you all out in November.
That's pretty much where I stand. I mean, that's what they're going to do. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much assumed to me that the Republicans aren't going to sign off on any of this stuff. The Democrats are going to try to push it through on their own through reconciliation. And like you said, and most of them will pay with their jobs come 2010. And again, I heard Obama tell them to do that. He said, fall on your sword. This is something bigger than our jobs. So if you got to lose your job to pass this bill, pass the bill. But again, he's not losing his job, and neither is Pelosi. Either one of those, they're fully entrenched, invested, and they're not worried about losing their job the same way that. And Pelosi, again, she needs to worry about her job, but she has so much financial backing out there in San Francisco that.
Well, but she's also, for the first time, got a serious contender that's gaining traction.
Yeah, I'm hoping John. Are you talking about John Dennis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get him on the show soon too, and help him out. Say I want to help out people that are trying to get some of these liberal whack jobs out of here.
Well, and I tweet for him too a lot every time I see it come across, because he can't be more of a nutcase, and he is a conservative. We need rid of people like Pelosi. They're dangerous. Stu Peck, people like that, they're not a danger. I may not agree with them, but they're not serious dangers to me.
Right.
But I will let somebody else call in and be nice.
Oh, I appreciate you calling in, and we're gonna get together and get this stuff going for less this month. So.
Okay. Just get a hold of me. You got my email and phone number and everything, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate all the help you did in getting me linked up with Les in the first place. So God bless you for that. And thank you for listening in and for the show and calling in. It gets lonely out here sometimes when nobody calls in.
See, my problem is you need to give me a heads up, because I'm so scattered and disorganized. I'm not really scattered, but I've got 80 million things going on. Mm-hmm. So I forget. If I hadn't seen Lexi's tweet, I wouldn't have known.
I'll start doing better about getting the message out before the show, so I can get having more people listening and checking out the show. But thank you so much for calling in, and God bless you.
God bless you, and have a nice evening, hon.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks, Vicki, for calling in. I'm about to go check out the chat room here. Looks like we got a lot of conversation going on here in the chat room about different things here. Talking about that health care bill and talking about the 2,000 pages and see what we got going on here. I agree with Tim here on taxes from hell. You would be lucky to get 50 cents on each dollar you earn. You need to really pay attention to, I've been at the barbershop and I've talked to people and we argue about different things, and it probably won't surprise you much when I go to my barbershop. I'm constantly teased about my political affiliations and my conservatism. But the thing I get people to understand is that we have to pay for everything, all these services and everything that we want done. We have to pay for, and until you can find a good way to pay for these bills, I support our leaders that are willing to stand up and say that they're not going to just continue with the status quo and actually stick up for the people that voted for them and the rest of the American people. That's the bottom line. Is that a congressman that's in or a senator that's in Kentucky, even though he's looking out for his state or his constituents, his decisions affect people in my state too. So again, I'm looking to help future leaders that are willing to stick up for the people. That's why, again, I try to have people like Les Phillips on my show. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have John Dennis on here who'll be challenging Queen Pelosi out in San Francisco. I really look forward to having him on the show. We need people that are first sticking to the Constitution. As political leaders, it'd be nice if they got in tune with that, followed the Constitution, believed in it, kept to the values of that. It'd be nice to get leaders that aren't afraid to do the right things. Like I said again, instead of thinking in terms of polls and their popularity, doing the right thing for their constituents, for their state, for their country. So again, over the next couple of weeks, I've got some people that I met at CPAC. I won't give out all the names and all the people I'm trying to get on here. If you go to my website or if you follow me on Facebook, you saw the people I met. I want to get every person that I met out there at CPAC. I want to get them on the show, and I look forward to that. It's a challenge getting some of these people on the show, but it's well worth it. Getting the right people on here and getting the people that are best representing our country. So again, I didn't get a chance to talk about it before. Hey John out there in Ohio, glad you're listening in. Thanks. I want to talk a little bit about Mitt Romney and his book. He was very, very critical of President Obama on some different issues, and he's starting to sound more and more presidential as time goes on. I don't think it's a big secret that he will probably be a candidate in 2012. In fact, the way I look at it, he is already campaigning. He's been campaigning. He's raising money for other Republicans, and so he's out there already. And me personally, I like Mitt Romney as a candidate. I think he has the business acumen. He has the background to be successful as the president. He has some great ideas. His book, No Apology: The Case for American Greatness, is his new book that he's got coming out, and he's really, like I said, he's went and got real heavy on criticizing the president. He derided he's called the president's overseas. This first time he went overseas, he called it as the American Apology Tour. This book has a lot of exact policies and ideas that he has. So I look at it again as more of a maybe a guideline for his presidential campaign. It was a lot different from the book that Sarah Palin wrote. In contrast, she made a lot more personal, spoke a lot more about her campaign riffs with McCain's people. Mitt Romney is focused a lot more on he's focused a lot more on Obama and he's like I said, he's criticizing a lot for his, as I guess again his defense of bringing in the terrorists to be tried here in New York. He's got a lot of different ideas. He'll be talking about the fair tax, and I definitely will be having someone from that organization coming on my show because I think as Americans that's something we all need to know more about. We kind of think in the box right now. And I think those are going to be the kind of things moving forward that we're going to have to do. So talking about Romney in particular, he talked about the fair tax. And the fair tax is a proposal to replace all federal taxes with a 23% tax on consumption plus an annual rebate. And it's popular among a lot of conservatives. Huckabee, he's been an endorser of that proposal for quite a while. And again, I'll be over the next couple of weeks, I'll be trying to get someone to speak more about the fair tax proposal on my show, someone from that organization. So I look forward to that. Romney, he is, like I say, he's really went hard again. He went really hard at Obama on apologizing, and he feels that America is a special country, the same way I do, and the fact that we shouldn't have to apologize to everyone for being a great country, and that, I guess he's saying, Obama's made, issues with our arrogance as a country. Well, quite frankly, I'd be arrogant too if we were, if you're the best at what you do, and there's no question to me that this country is the best. We have the best healthcare system, the best military, the best freedom of choice, the freedom of religion. A lot of these other countries that we are constantly at war with and that they have so many issues with us have a big issue with the fact that that we have freedom of choice, freedom of religion. You go in the Middle East and trying to preach Christianity and see what happens to you, see what the results you'll get. Don't say that I sent you though, because I wouldn't want to be responsible for what's going to happen to you if you're out there preaching Christianity in the Middle East. So, again, Romney, he made his points against Obama, and I guess that was a big part of it. Was the fact that he also touched on the fact that he touched on the issue of same-sex marriage. He suggested his opposition to it stems from not an anti-gay worldview, but from a belief that a mother and father are critical for the well-being of our children. Common sense, I guess, America and every state that's had an opportunity has overwhelmingly voted against same-sex marriage. And I would vote against that. I understand that people have loved ones, and that if you're in that kind of relationship, you want to protect that person when you pass away by being able to leave them, your assets and protecting that person. I don't have an issue with that, but when you start calling it marriage and something that again is being blessed by God, I don't think that's not what God intended, and that's kind of like where I stand on that. I wouldn't consider myself anti-gay. I don't hate gay people or anything like that. I just think that when we're talking about marriage and even take it a step further, adoption, those are I believe the same as Ronnie does, that a mother and father are critical for the well-being of our children. So I think that Mitt Romney in 2012 will be a front runner. He will obviously have some competition from other people. He will have some issues to deal with that health care bill that he created in Massachusetts that now is failing under a Democratic governor, but he will have to answer for that if he's going to run. Now, the only thing that I can see that he can spin that is to be able to say that he knows that it does not work because he actually created that system. But I can hear the hypocrisy coming from the left when he challenges Obama on that. So he's got some work ahead. But again, he came in second in the CPAC straw poll. I believe he's won the last 2 years. So he's a favorite among conservatives. I respect him again for his business acumen. A lot of people, I get a lot of people going back and forth on Twitter on that. Some people don't like that, but I think that in the situation we're in, we need people that understand business and understanding some of the tough decisions that will have to be made running this country. So. Hopefully, I hope to get Mitt Romney on the show so he can actually talk more about his book, talk more about his plans. I'm working on that. We'll see what we can do. This show is for the people, so I always when I'm calling after these people, I let them know that this is all in grassroots operations here. When you're on my show, this is for the people. I'm not a trained broadcaster or journalist. This is something I do. Because I'm trying to make a difference here, and I'm trying to bring a different voice, a different perspective to this debate. I believe that President Obama just has a kind of like almost a totally different view of what he believes America should be, and that's kind of like where I'm willing to draw the line on. I don't know. You never hear me really disrespecting the president. I still think that he's the president, so you got to have respect for the man, but you got to question the policies and the things that he's doing moving forward. And again, I hope that maybe he'll even take the advice of Rahm Emanuel, who has more, I guess, of the experience in the D.C. circuit. He understands the geographics of it. That he's if they push this health care bill through with reconciliation, they're pretty much letting the American people know that their voice is not the issue and that they know best for everybody in this debate, I suppose. So again, it was very interesting to hear Obama tell those Congress people to you're going to lose your job, you might as well do it for this bill when his job is safe. So I want to hear from you. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. 347-996-3175. Again, I'll be working hard to get some of these people on the show so you can ask them questions directly. I'll give you some of the names of the organizations over the next couple of weeks that I'll be reaching out to try to get on the show. Americans for Prosperity, obviously the Fairtax, the Fairtax.org group. I want to get them on here. And again, we'll be reaching out. The whole goal is to get people on the show that have ideas that can, that we can all take to our leaders locally, wherever you're at, and whether it be through emails, notes, letters. Those letters, I was at a Tea Party meeting once, and I met a senator who explained to me almost the way they treat letters and the way they treat phone calls. A phone call to your local senator is almost treated as 50 people. A letter or an email is treated as 200. So people have to realize that you do have a voice. That's what makes America great. We do have a voice, but we have to use it. Lexi said earlier, this is not the time to be a spectator. It's time to get involved. If you're American, this is the time to get involved to help make your country better. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't wait. A lot of the politicians on both sides of the aisle are gambling on the fact that people generally just get disinterested or turn off the news and don't pay attention to what's going on. And that's how they've managed to pass a lot of these bills, a lot of the spending that's going on. So stay diligent, people. Keep in touch with your leaders, your senators, your state reps, making sure you're keeping them honest, and make them understand that you know how you feel about this bill. And like I said, they have to listen. Again, that's what makes their job difficult right now when they're trying to work with the president. They know how their constituents feel, so don't give up. Stay persistent on that. give me a call, 347-996-3175. Wherever you're at throughout America, if you have a good conservative candidate that you know, might be facing tough odds in your area, or someone that you believe that has a voice that needs to be heard, let me know. Send me an email or send me a tweet. I'm going to give you an email address for people. First time I'm giving out this email address. This is never 140 words or not enough. Send me an email at twitterfam@conservativeiscool.com. Again, that's twitterfam@conservativeiscool.com. All right, so I'm going to go on to my chat room here for a minute. Let's see here. We got a couple people here going back and forth on I'm going to assume on the abortion portion of the health care bill. I think that's something else that hasn't been talked about enough, and you know, for some people that's not an issue. For real conservatives, and for not all really just conservatives, the right to life. And I understand a woman has a right to choose, but every woman that I would propose that to, I ask them, okay, you have a right to choose. What about that child's right to life? That child will not have the opportunity to choose because you're taking that opportunity. So while I respect that what you're saying is that you have the right to choose, all I'm asking is, and the fair question would be, what would be the rights of that unborn child? And again, some people don't value it as a life until it's 3-4 months old. If you value that conception, then that means that that's murder. And I definitely, again, I wouldn't want that on my hands. If you're gonna, if someone's gonna do that, that's on them. That's between them and God. But I would not want any kind of health care bill that covers abortions and makes it any easier for people to get abortions using federal money. Again, those are the kind of things that the Democrats aren't going to make an issue because they're so into their choice issue and they don't want to take away a woman's right to choose that they rather just again put that into the laps of something else to put into the laps of the taxpayers. I'd like to see, in particular in the African American community, abortion has become a second form of birth control. And again, that's where I want people to understand that, we're not talking about rape or incest. We're talking about people just getting abortions because they're irresponsible. They're getting pregnant multiple times and having multiple abortions. And I'm glad and my point is, if you put that where the government's paying for it, I can't imagine to the level. Hate to cut you off, Wayne. Give us your email here. Oh, okay. I'm working the board. I'm also going through chats here. So again, that's twitterfam@conservativeiscool.com. Twitterfam@conservativeiscool.com. Shoot me an email. I got a lot of different email addresses, so be patient with me sometimes if I don't send something right back. But I'm doing my best to make sure I'm returning emails and following up with people. I'm pretty good about that. And so just remember that. And Lexi, I'm glad you're listening out there for me. It's just that simple. As a grown person, I understand that we all have rights and we all want to make decisions, but just understand when you're saying that, you're not giving that same opportunity to choose or anything for that baby. And I think that's what we need to put more emphasis on. We're yelling choice. That you're taking away all options and choices from that baby when you're taking that position. So again, in my community, I see it more as a birth control method than I do as something that people are using, again, in the worst possible scenarios. There'll be people that will tell me, "Oh, Wayne, you're conservative. You don't want people to waste money on welfare and all these babies that are being born out of wedlock that fall into the government's hands." It's a terrible problem to have. I agree. Again, that's something else I want to talk about in future shows, is putting more of an emphasis on abstinence education as opposed to sex education. I think that's why we have so many problems in our school systems and with so many abortions and unwanted pregnancies is because we're not putting enough emphasis on abstinence education as opposed to just sex education. Now, I'm no fool. I realize that young people and people are going to still be sexually active, but we can be just as diligent about promoting abstinence as we are about promoting safe sex. Now, I realize that you have to promote safe sex, because if not, then you'll just have, again, more STDs and that sort of thing. But heaven forbid now that we can't promote abstinence education. Again, I think that has a lot to do with again, the left. They try to make that a religious issue instead of a common sense issue, as opposed to we're pushing condoms in public schools and that sort of thing. We ought to be educating them on all the bad stuff that could happen if they had sex in the first place, and the benefits and the values of waiting, as opposed to just telling them to go ahead and slap on a rubber and take some birth control pills and call it a day. So I'm hoping, like I said, in the future I want to have some religious leaders and also maybe some school people to talk more about that issue. But the more we're taking the Lord and God out of our way of thinking, the worse this country is going down the hole. I understand there's a separation between church and state, but this country was founded on Christian principles. And again, I don't think it would be a bad idea, considering everything that we see, all the sex that's on TV and all the ways promoted through music and movies and entertainment, that we might want to get back to abstinence education as just opposed to strictly sex education. But this is a guy with 2 daughters. Maybe I'm a little impartial to that, but I don't know. Sounds like a good idea to me. Seems like that would be a better solution. Going forward, I want to start working with some people, maybe creating better options for these young girls that are having babies out of wedlock at young ages, instead of always making abortion the ready cure-all for all these problems. Maybe adoption and these other options better. Maybe again, this is the kind of thing that the churches can get more involved in, is doing more parenting seminars and getting involved and helping parents from that standpoint and giving them a good Christian foundation and raising them the right way. And again, maybe we can curb some of the problems, because like I said, in my community, 70% of the children are being born out of wedlock. I think you gotta look at it as changing. Obviously, sex education might have curbed it a little bit, but it's not doing everything it needs to be. And I think that's why, again, you need to put a little bit more emphasis on that. So you said, but to promote abstinence, you have to teach them about sex. Yes, I know that's a downer, but again, they're learning about sex at a young age because of all the music and stuff that we see on TV. So again, a lot of the stuff that maybe when I was growing up we didn't know about or didn't get challenged about, or as a parent now, my 6-year-old daughter recently asked me about, I guess what did gay mean. So I mean, again, she's 6 years old, and you haven't explained these things already, because it's just a different time as far as the things that they're hearing and seeing out here. So again, I think we need to put a little more emphasis on that moving forward. So I've got about 90 seconds left here on the show. I want to thank everybody that's been listening. I want you to go to my website, and again, I think I've said it probably for the last couple of weeks now about adding more. I'm going to be adding more polls, because I think that's where we got to get really to the bottom of it, is with polls and blogging, is finding out what solutions do the people have. Because I mean, we can criticize and debate, but what do we think would be the best way to move our country in a better direction? And I'm always interested in hearing that. And again, these ideas can also be transformed and uploaded and emailed to all of our leaders. You can go on the show, you can go to my show page, and always email and share any show that I've done, with anybody that they might want to hear the show. Just go on there and share it with them. Go on there and email. You can send this tonight's show or any other night show that I've done with any of our guests, to help, again, spread the word. We're looking. If you know any good candidates in your area, let's get them on the show. Let's help spread the word and get support for them. Again, I'm going to be having more candidates that I believe are good conservative candidates coming soon. So keep listening. Thanks again for everybody listening on the show. I'm about to leave out. Conservativeiscool.com is the website. Thank you, and God bless. Good night.